it's a book haul. I don't get to do many of these anymore. I don't have the money for it, which is honestly a good thing, because I have a little bit of a problem. This time, fantasy, a little bit of quirky, weird, fun stuff, and then horror. So let's get to it. This is a fantasy that I was talking about. It's a series by Laini Taylor. I honestly don't know much about it. I know it's been a big series that a lot of people have read. It's been around for quite a while. But I read her Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, so I quite enjoyed them. So I think, hopefully this will be up my alley. If nothing else, I enjoyed her style of writing enough that I'm like, whatever this is about, I want to take a chance on it, because I thought she created a great world with beautiful prose and great characters, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, okay. So on to the kind of quirky, weird stuff is Gadsby, which is a story of over 50,000 words without using the letter E. Which, once you get past the introduction, yeah, that's true. There is no letter E in this book, other than, obviously, in the guy's name printed at the top of the page. Now, I've heard it's not a very good book, which is probably in part because it doesn't use the letter E. So sometimes you might have to do some strange workarounds, or choose words that aren't, you have a word in your mind that's 100% correct, but you can't type it because it has the letter E in it, so you're like, I'll pick the word that's 80% correct. Or I'll pick the 5 words that accomplish what the 1 word I originally wanted to use will do. So obviously it's not going to be a super strong story in terms of the writing itself, I imagine. I still want to check it out. I don't know if I'll manage to get through the whole 50,000 words if it's as bad as some people have said. But it was an interesting experiment. It piqued my interest. Apparently he had to actually jam the letter E on his typewriter because it was too easy to slip and mess up, but it should be fun. Hey, stop fighting. Stop. lmnop. Which, so you can see how it's written. lmnop is a girl living happily on the fictional island of Nullup off the coast of South Carolina. Nullup was named after Nevin Nullup, author of the immortal phrase containing all the letters of the alphabet. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Now Ella finds herself acting to save her friends, family, and fellow citizens from the encroaching totalitarianism, bit of a mouthful that one, off the island's, the encroaching totalitarianism of the island's council, which has banned the use of certain letters of the alphabet as they fall from a memorial statue of Nevin Nullup. As the letters progressively drop from the statue, they also disappear from the novel. The result is both a hilarious and moving story of one girl's fight for freedom of expression and a linguistic tour de force sure to delight word lovers everywhere. So that sounded really fun to me. In fact, just flipping through it, you can see the alphabet there. And as you lose certain letters, it'll display which letters are still available for use. And then I noticed the name of the town, which is Nullupville. And then as you flip through the book, and they lose certain letters, eventually turns into Nullupton. So yeah, it sounded fun. I've heard that one is actually good. As opposed to Gadsby. This one, by the same author, I don't think it's as loved as lmnop, but it's Ibid, a novel, and there's the cover so you can see it. After his editor's son accidentally drowns the sole copy of his latest manuscript in the bathtub, Mark Dunn, a character in his own novel, makes the best of a bad situation. He will tell the story of 3-legged circus performer, deodorant magnate, and humanitarian Jonathan Blachette through the only part of the text that survives, the footnotes. The result is a riotous and irreverent romp through recent history that finds on the margins of a fictitious life a surprisingly revealing angle on who and what we consider newsworthy and why. So basically, the whole book is footnotes, which I thought was a fun idea. So yeah, I'll check out that one too. I don't think it's as universally loved as lmnop, so maybe I'll read that one first, so I won't read lmnop, get really excited for everything the guy does, and then read a book that's not quite as good. But maybe it's great, and I just read the wrong reviews. Then we have The 13.5 Lives of Captain Bluebear, which says equal parts J.K. Rowling, Douglas Adams, and Shel Silverstein. So that alone. The Bluebear has 27 lives. I shall recount 13.5 of them in this book, but keep quiet about the rest, says the narrator of Walter Moore's epic adventure. He also said, I should be lying if I claimed that my 13.5 lives were uneventful. What about the mini-pirates? What about the hobgoblins, the spider witch, the babbling billows, the troglotroll, the mountain maggot? What about the venomous vampires, the gelatin prince from the 2364th dimension? Mine is a tale of mortal danger and eternal love, of hair's breadth, last-minute escapes. Welcome to the fantastic and wondrous world of Zamonia, populated by all manner of extraordinary characters and created by author and illustrator Walter Moores. Moores? I don't know how you pronounce the guy's name. I'm bad with names. It's a land of imaginative lunacy and supreme adventure, wicked satire and epic fantasy all mixed together, turned on its head, and lavishly illustrated. There's the cover. There's the back. And some of the illustrations. So yeah, it sounded fun. Anything that's called the 13.5 Lives. So I think maybe you're starting to see what I mean. It's not definitely kind of quirky, odd sort of fun humor. And then lastly, of course, since I didn't own it already, is The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which has all 5 of Douglas Adams' Hitchhikers novels. It's quite reasonably priced as well. It's like $12, $13 for 5 novels, so not bad. I haven't read it. I've only seen the movie way back, whenever it first came out on DVD, and then a little bit of the old TV series. But if you're not even vaguely familiar with the universe, it starts with the main character's name is Arthur Dent. So as I recall, I'm pretty sure it's something like he comes home and he finds out the building he lives in is like condemned, and the apartment building, and they're gonna like tear it down. He's like, what? What's going on? You can't do this. It's like, yeah, sure we can. He's like, you have to like post notice or something if the building gets sold and they decide to demolish it. It's like, well, we did. We put it, up on a bulletin board, down a flight of stairs into the basement, off in a corner where there's very poor lighting, or something like that. And then shortly thereafter, a spaceship shows up and then tells like the Earth that it's gonna demolish it, and people are angry. It's like, you can't do that! Yes, we can. You have to post notice. We did. We put it on a bulletin board in a basement, in a corner, in poor lighting. Not that precise phrasing, obviously. I'm butchering it, but just to give you a vague notion of the silliness involved. And now on to the horror, but this one is kind of actually what I've heard a little bit of an in-between, so to speak, between that sillier genre and the horror. Just insofar as it's supposed to be a comedy horror novel that's like set in like the equivalent of like an IKEA or something, and that some of the design for the book itself is similar to like a catalog. Interesting. That Bruca, probably not pronouncing it properly. Sorry. I really appreciate that it says page 8. It's on page 8. That is on page 78, and it is in fact on page 78, and I really appreciate that attention to detail, because this one, for comparison's sake, is a book of urban legends. It has like a magazine style cover, and it says page numbers for the stories, and the page numbers don't match up, and that drove my husband absolutely up the wall. He's like, why would you do it and then not match it up? It would be so cool if you matched it up. So I appreciate that. And then even the front cover versus the back. But it sounds really fun. Hopefully a bit spooky, a bit funny. Have to let you know once I read it. Next up is The Toll, which says Southern Gothic horror with a contemporary twist. I want to pick this one up for a little bit because I really found the description intriguing. Titus and Melanie Bell are on their honeymoon and have reservations in the Okefenokee swamp cabins for a canoeing trip. But shortly before they reach their destination, the road narrows into a rickety bridge with old stone pilings, with room for only one car. Much later, Titus wakes up lying in the middle of the road, no bridge in sight. Melanie is missing. When he calls the police, they tell him there is no such bridge on State Road 177. I like that. You're like, how do I even find her? I can't even find the bridge. How am I supposed to find my missing wife? Anyway, it sounded really intriguing. Prosperous Demon, which I honestly don't know if this one is horror or dark fantasy. I haven't read it, so an exorcist methods aren't delicate, but they're undeniably effective. He'll get the demon out, he just doesn't particularly care what happens to the person. His target, Prosper of Sanza, is a man of science determined to raise the world's first philosopher king, reared according to the purest principles. Too bad he's possessed. In this pitch-dark, witty fantasy, Parker deftly creates a world with vivid, unbending rules, seething with demons, broken faith, and bad men. Prosperous Demon cheerfully and acidly excavates some of Western literature's deepest tropes, from Plato's philosopher king to Marlowe and Goethe, on Dr. Faustus and Mephistopheles, with infernal flair. It's only like 100 pages, and it's one of those Tor.com books, the little novellas, and I really like that, just because sometimes you just want a short read that's got an interesting premise and you don't want to pick up like a 600-page novel or something. Next up, All the Wood She Watches Over by Emily McCosh. Why have I not been saying the authors' names this whole time? I'm sorry. Not gonna go back and do it, but which is a collection of short stories and poetry. I kinda don't want to read the back because I don't like knowing what's gonna happen in all the short stories. It's one thing to have a general notion going into a novel, but it was recommended by, what is her name? Jenna Morrissey. How did I forget it? Morrissey? It's been a while since I watched her videos, so I don't remember what's the way she pronounces it and what's the way that I thought it was pronounced prior to ever watching any of her videos. I don't know which one I've selected. So, whoops. She mentioned this like in one of her newsletters or something, that it was beautiful prose, and it was something that piqued my interest. It's been a while since I've read that email, but I picked up this book. Love the cover. Excited to check it out. Next up, last up, the house on Abigail Lane. I think I pointed so you could see the empty space where the books aren't anymore. It's like, oh yeah, see, there's nothing left off camera where you can't see anyway. Even if you could, I've just moved the stack closer to the camera so you wouldn't be able to see the blank spot, even if I did turn it over. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary American home, but since its construction in 1956, people have vanished as soon as they go upstairs. The only clues of the things they leave are the things they leave behind: a wedding ring, a phone, an eye, and can't read. In its 60-year history, a record number of strange events have been attributed to the house, from the neighbors waking up to find themselves standing in the yard outside to the grieving man who vanished before a police officer's eyes. The animals gathering in the yard as if summoned, the people who speak in reverse, the lights and sounds, the music, the grass dying overnight, and the 10-foot clowns on the second floor. And as long as they are mysteries, people will be compelled to solve them. Here, then, is the most comprehensive account of Abigail House phenomenon, the result of 60 years of eyewitness accounts, news reports, scientific research, and parapsychological investigations, all in attempts to decode the enduring mystery that is the house on Abigail Lane. And then there's another sunflower in the back. I hadn't actually read that full description before. I'd gotten as far as the wedding ring, a phone, and eye. And I was like, yeah, no, insta-buy, it's $6, looks fun. My kinda read. So yeah, that's everything. This video's gone on too long. Thanks for watching through it. If you did, here's all the books. Again, just cuz. There they are. Okay, goodbye.